Okay, sorry guys, we think, oh, yay, we have quorum now, so ignore me. We're gonna get situated up here and we will get started any minute. Okay, we hope we are still expecting one more commissioner, but for now we're going to go ahead and get the ball rolling on this. Good afternoon and welcome to the May Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sarah Jordan and I am the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. As usual, we have a full agenda, actually fuller than usual today, and it's my goal to get everyone out of here early, so be thorough but mindful of time. As a reminder, please limit individual conversations during the meeting. This ensures commission members and applicants can hear one another. Please remain quiet until you are called upon. When you speak at the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Before the commission votes on each item, I will ask any members of the public if they wish to speak. Speakers are given 3 minutes to relay information to commission members. I'm going to jump in here and add a little footnote that we are going to lose quorum at 4 p.m. and we are all very aware that there are lots of people who are here to speak from the public, so we're certainly going to do that, but if everybody could just be really mindful and concise as you come up to the podium, we would like to keep it on track and get everybody what they need today. The agenda and documents for today's meeting are located on the PrimeGov website, and if you're following along, you can select Agenda on the right side of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting to see the items being discussed. Written comments received more than 24 hours before today's meeting are posted online and were shared with commission members. At this point, no new materials may be shared with the commission. If you brought anything with you, please keep it at your seat. Okay, let's go ahead and call roll.
Jordan.
Present.
McBride.
Present.
Whitley. Wood. Present. We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Procedures for today's meeting are noted in the agenda. For the sake of time, we ask anyone who is unfamiliar with the process to please refer to the procedures section. There are 2 items that we like to note specifically regarding the meeting process, and these involve certificates of appropriateness and appeals. Regarding a certificate of appropriateness, after an application is approved and the 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the certificate of appropriateness to the applicant. City construction permits cannot be issued until the CA is issued. Please contact HP staff for final design review inspection or to withdraw items that will not be completed. Regarding an appeal to the Board of Adjustments, any person aggrieved by a decision granting or denying a CA may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustments. All appeals shall be made within 10 days of the commission decision by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the Board of Adjustments. Katie, any news from the Office of the Historic Preservation Officer or anything that we need to move today?
Nothing to report from the Office of the Historic Preservation Officer. We had awards last night and that was wonderful. The city's put out a press release and it'll be on the website if you want to see more information about that event, and nothing to move on the agenda today.
Okay, great. Have the commissioners had a chance to review the minutes from the April meeting? And if so, do we have any questions or a motion to accept or modify those minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Great. Okay, if you guys could please vote.
Abstain.
Okay, does it carry if we don't have quorum and 1 abstention? Okay, that motion carries. Katie, anything from code enforcement?
Nothing specific to report. As always, please reach out to staff or the Action Center if you have questions about any items in that code enforcement report.
Okay, any continuance announcements or requests?
We have 1 continuance request from an item that was continued to this meeting, so it had to be on the agenda. They've asked for more time and would like to be continued to the July meeting. That date is July 1st, so we need a motion and a vote to continue that item.
Okay, great. Public hearings.
So we need to vote on that.
I'm sorry. Yes.
I'll second.
Okay. You all should be able to vote in PrimeGov. Okay, that motion carries. Now moving on to public hearings.
No dilapidated structures, no National Register nominations. We have 2 items on the consent docket.
Okay, great. If commissioners have had a chance to review the consent docket and nobody is requesting any commentary, do we have a motion to perhaps go ahead and move that one along?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Okay, that motion carries. So if you were on the consent docket, I believe there were 2 cases. Congratulations, your projects are approved. You are certainly welcome to stick around and hang out with us, but you are also free to go. Okay, anything under other, oh, sorry, no. Getting ahead of myself, trying to keep us on track and be speedy. So moving on to cases for individual consideration. 627 Northwest 14th Street in Heritage Hills.
This is consideration and possible action on an application for certificate of appropriateness to install metal panels within the existing fence. This work has already occurred. The commission has to review it as if it had not. The applicant has a wrought iron style transparent fence that previously had mesh material on it to provide some screening. They've taken that mesh down and have installed individual metal panels that are set into the ground to kind of replace that screening function. It meets the criteria for fence height. Both the existing fence and the newly installed panels are closer to the sidewalk than what the guidelines support, but it has been that way for quite some time. Staff didn't feel comfortable administratively approving this installation, so that's why it's before the commission today. We did recommend a continuance, just giving kind of the option for you all to ask for revisions to the proposed design or additional information.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Okay, you are welcome to come on up and speak at the podium. Do you mind just stating your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I'm Susan Sandler, and I live at 627 Northwest 14th Street and in Heritage Hills,
Great.
Oklahoma City.
Commissioners, any immediate questions for the applicant?
That's like the worst picture of all of them. There we go.
Any immediate thoughts, concerns, points you would like to address? Anyone?
I mean, I understand the concept here. I just don't think it works, and it specifically doesn't work within the guidelines. So I would request, I'm in support of the continuance and request that you really work with our staff. They're here to work with you to find a solution. I understand why you're looking for a solution, and work with them to try to make sure that we can come up with something that gives you the additional privacy I think that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that largely sums up my thought process too. I know I'm reading in the staff report and in the comments from the neighborhood that there previously was some seemingly pretty dense organic screening shrubbery at the fence line. So that is something we generally prefer in these instances when there's a pretty visible corner lot like this. And you know, I don't think we actually reviewed any guidelines on whether a more solid fence would be appropriate at this corner lot, but might be something worth considering too.
Yeah.
Anything you want to share with us about motivation for choosing this rather than the screening or something?
Well, first of all, we didn't realize originally that putting up a trellis on our side of the fence was a problem, and that it would be considered a change, because we did do some work to the back of our house a few years ago, and we came here and got it all approved and everything. But since we bought the house in 2012, we've always had some sort of pet barrier along the fence to keep our dogs in the yard. And we had that hideous green mesh for years, and it like deteriorates, and we had to put chain link in front of it, and it was just a mess. So we were trying to improve the look of it. It's actually not complete. Somebody said it was complete, but we got a notice and then we stopped. Our plan was to plant like climbing vines and stuff, climbing flowering plants along, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And actually, if you don't mind just either scooting closer to the mic or maybe, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anyway, we were planning to do some landscaping and planting like bougainvillea or the type of flowering vines that would hang over and be more attractive than just a trellis. Let's see. We're basically just, we are trying to maintain some privacy, but it's less privacy than we had with the mesh. We just wanted to allow a little more transparency and be able to keep our dogs in the yard who are, I mean, we literally on the inside have like bricks along the bottom because they're both total escape artists. So we got a notice to stop, so we stopped, and here we are.
Okay.
So what I will say is there are lots of administratively approvable options for fencing. I think we could continue this to the July meeting to give more time for the applicant to work with staff, and hopefully within that interim, we can come up with something that meets their needs, meets the guidelines, administratively approve it, and then you wouldn't have to come back to the commission again.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I can put the green mesh back up. I can buy new and put more green mesh up.
Yeah.
I think actually, do the guidelines not prohibit the green mesh as well? I know this has come up recently, and
It's been
I'm
there
sorry,
for
I don't
like
recall exactly
5
what the
years.
answer is.
Yeah, I don't know that they explicitly address the mesh. They address appropriate materials for fencing, and that does not include things like fabric and mesh and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But
Did the existing fence, the wrought iron, was it there when you purchased the property? Okay.
And we painted it black so that it would all blend, and then we were hoping to have like the flowers coming over the top and down in between the mesh and the fence and kind of, you know, be a little prettier to look at.
Katie, if they were to come back with a fence proposal that was more typical of something we would see, you know, just a 6-foot cedar fence, say, would we allow it to go back in its current location, or would it be required to be moved?
we would have to look at what the condition is of there's some allowances for lining up fences when you're on a corner, other fences on the same street side. Typically, I would say we would, if a new fence was being installed, we'd tell them they need to push it 2 feet back off the sidewalk.
Okay,
But I can't say for sure.
gotcha. I
we
think the
didn't
one
really
immediately behind that is not in line with that one. I think it is also mostly transparent, and I think it cuts in about 3 feet. But I was just curious, thinking through solutions and what
Yeah.
that might look like.
Yeah.
Well, I think to summarize, largely the concern is that it's out of character with the historic fabric of the neighborhood is kind of a broad summary of the notes in the staff report and the notes in the public comments that were submitted. Do any commissioners have any more feedback or a motion or suggestions?
Comments?
Yes, any public comments, I'm sorry, that were, anybody who didn't submit already.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So putting flowers along there is not sufficient to, we have a whole plan for the backyard. Plus, it's the backyard, it's not the front yard, even though I know we're on the corner.
Yeah, I think,
I was just going to say, maybe we could do, are you allowed to put trellis up at all?
So there are allowances for trellis, and landscape screening is certainly supported. We would just need to work through the details of that, I think, and that's, I think, beyond what we can do here in this meeting now.
See.
But that's something that staff could potentially administratively approve, if there's a way to do screening with some combination of landscaping and, yeah.
The staff's here to work with you to get you to the finish line within the guidelines. So take advantage of it and really work with them, and I'm sure a great solution can be had in regard to what you're wanting and what falls within the guidelines.
Yeah, Katie, do we ever, so I actually just live diagonal from you on 15th, and so I walk past your house a lot. You have really small dogs, right? Okay. Do we ever, I can think of a couple of other fences in the neighborhood that are really similarly situated, and I know that one of them did come to HP a couple of years ago with a similar problem. And I forget exactly what we allowed, but she was allowed to plant or put or do something on the lower half inside of her. She had a white picket fence to prevent her dogs from running out. And I was just wondering if, if the main motivation, we were kind of assuming privacy, but if the main motivation is to keep your dogs in your yard, I wonder if there are solutions that are outside of what I was thinking through, assuming it was a privacy request.
I do not recall, but we can certainly look into that and
Okay.
figure out what we did there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we're going to be doing some exploring on this one over the next month.
Is there someone in particular that I should talk to about it, or?
You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Angela, sitting right here, and either one. Or if you email the general email that you would have gotten notice of the meeting from, that cpud@okc.gov, will get you to the right person.
Okay, and then I have another question, but I can ask that to Angela later.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, Katie, do you think it might be better to continue this one to the July meeting in hopes that you could come up with an
Yeah.
administrative?
I won't be
I think
in
so.
town.
Pardon me?
I won't be in town July 1st.
I'm sorry?
She won't be in town
I'll
on
be
July
in
1st.
California
Oh, okay.
for the July 4th
I don't
week.
think many of us will be in town on July 1st. We'll see if that meeting gets moved. So the reason I was suggesting that is because most fencing types are administratively approvable. And so often when we're working towards that goal, we try to give you 2 months to work with staff in the background.
We can do June 3rd, and if we have a solution by then that's great, and if not, we can still continue again and give you more time.
Okay, I just have to check my calendar, but that'd be great.
We have to do one or the other. So, while you are not actually required to be present at the meeting, we do have to continue to one of those. So,
Okay,
And if there's a continuance request, you would not have to be present for the purpose of that continuance request.
okay, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
okay.
So June 3rd?
So knowing that, do you want to do July 1st, and then if there's not a resolution by then, or you're out of town, it could go on as a request for a continuance? Because also if it's an administrative approval, you wouldn't need to be here to present anything
Right.
in order to get that either.
Okay.
So I'd recommend going to the July 1st, and then it'll either be administratively approved or continued without you having to be present for either one.
Okay.
agree.
All right, perfect.
July 1.
Angela? I haven't seen it.
I don't think we've seen this one before. Okay.
Okay, commissioners, anybody have a motion perhaps?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for HPCA 26-00029 to continue all items to the July 1st meeting.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mom. I'll just let y'all handle it.
Thank you to everyone.
Is that it?
Okay, you should be able to vote now. Okay, we will potentially see you in July or get that wrapped up sooner. So thank you.
Thank you. Am I supposed to sign this?
Yeah, if you'll write your name and address there for us.
Okay, next up we have HPCA 26-00030 at 624 Northwest 25th Street.
This is consideration and possible action on an application by Fallon Magnus Brooks, Jollybird Design LLC for David Stupka for certificate of appropriateness to 1 demolished garage elective. This applicant also has an associated SPUD with this property. That's not in front of you yet. You'll see that at a future meeting. So today we just have the request for the demolition of the garage. We have photos of the garage and information on its condition from the applicant. We don't have a structural engineer's report. And you do have comments from the neighborhood. Staff has recommended a continuance.
Okay, is the applicant present? She is.
I am.
I
Hello.
think you know the drill.
It's
I-
Fallon Brooks Magnus, not Fallon
Yes.
Magnus Brooks, right?
It is Fallon Brooks
Okay.
Magnus.
Sorry.
Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jolly Bird Design, representing the applicant, 11 Northeast 11th Street. I did not realize that the spud site and everything was not also on this agenda, because that's a pretty large piece. I think this is pretty standard condition for a lot of these garages. There's not, like the whole thing's kind of racking, it's falling apart. You know, I think we're kind of on the cusp of whether or not it's fixable. You know, we've also, the back end of the lot is pretty deep. I think we have plenty of room for everything that we're asking within the spud, but obviously the garage is part of that plan. Removing the garage is part of that plan. So, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
While you all are thinking, I'm going to just say to our audience today, I don't know if there's something going on with the sound, but I am
Can't hear anything.
really struggling to hear anything anyone is saying. So if you all can really enunciate
I thought I
like
was
you're in
aware.
a school play, it's just particularly hard today.
Yes, I thought I was alone in that, so, yeah, come up here and yell at us.
Sorry,
Figuratively.
go ahead.
Does anyone have any questions for me? That's all I said.
I don't have a question, just, you know, I think broadly, we've not met the criteria for proving that we're ready to issue a demo permit, but you seem unsurprised by that, so.
Do what?
You seem unsurprised by that?
Yeah,
so-
no, I am unsurprised. I am surprised that my zoning portion wasn't on there because I would like to talk about it. I will just say this. It is possible, I think, for us to get to where we need to without tearing down the garage.
Okay,
I am no longer based out of Oklahoma City, so I have not physically been to this site. I was given photos. That was the best I could do. I'm happy to go and try to get some more in-depth photos and make a better report, I suppose. But the whole thing is not really hinging completely on that. We do have room at the back of the lot for another unit. And so I just want to kind of put that little bug in your ears
yeah,
because we
well,
will
I think if it's
be
not
discussing that.
contingent on that, we probably need to, I mean, my opinion is that we need to move on with a proposal that doesn't include demo.
Right, so I'm going to look at that and see if
Okay.
it's worth continuing with that. For now, I just request a continuance on the whole thing.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Seems easy enough. We do have a note from the Paseo Neighborhood Association, and I'm sure you all have already looked at that. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak about this? Okay, there being none, do we have a motion to continue this one?
Fallon, when would you like it continued? Do you want June or July?
It's going to have to be June.
I couldn't hear.
I'm so sorry.
It's
We
going
really
to
are
have to be
struggling.
June.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Can you all hear us? Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue HPCA-26-00030 to the June meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. See you next month. Okay, up next we have HPCA 26-00032 at 809 Northwest 16th Street in Mesta Park.
This is consideration and possible action on application by G&E Enterprises LLC for Eden Moore Hudson Avenue Design for certificate of appropriateness to item 7, construct garage elective, and item 10, replace fence elective. The commission has seen this garage previously. The applicant has made some modifications to the design. It remains at about the same size and about the same height, I believe, as what we had, or it's gotten shorter, a little bit shorter from the last time. We have still recommended a continuance. It is larger than the footprint that the guidelines support, and we are also still looking for comparison to the height of other garages on the block. You have a number of comments from the public on this one, and again, we've recommended continuance. The fence is kind of dependent upon the garage, so we would recommend continuing that as well if the garage is continued.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you mind stating your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Eden Moore, 621 Northwest 18th Street. Can y'all
Okay.
hear me? Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah, okay. First off, I just wanted to let you all know that I am coming in completely open-minded today. I know the guidelines. I knew the guidelines when we bought the house. What I didn't know is that we were on such a passionate block and group of people. A lot of these people have been here since they were kids, and so I want to honor and respect that. I know that what I'm asking for is within the approvable guidelines, but I also know that I don't want anyone to be unhappy in somewhere that they've lived forever because of something that I build. So I'm not sure if there's a way to get to a happy place or a medium ground. I would love to. Anything I've ever done in the neighborhood has been widely applauded and accepted, and I just felt like I was doing good work. So I would love to feel that way. I know there's really no way to make everybody happy, but if we could, I would love input. I would love, I did make it look more historically appropriate, definitely, than last time. Move the door from the alley back to the house. I know that was a concern of neighbors. Made the roof pitch a lot lower to resemble what's next door. So yeah, I would love to hear from you all on the new design.
Okay, well, thank you for your willingness. One thing that was on my personal list to ask you today, which we generally ask people at this point in the process, is are you open to moving it to a 1.5 story or a 1 story if we get to an impasse? So it sounds like that's not preferred, but is possible.
Yeah, I think last time I was at 24 feet, and this time we're at 21.6. And so I was just kind of trying to resemble what was across the alley, which is widely not appreciated on this block, and I understand it. So coming down to the height of the historic ones next door, as opposed to the 1.5. It has an 8-foot ceiling in the garage. It's 8 foot up top. And so we were able to get it down to the height of the historic structures, as opposed to the new construction across the alleys. A lot of these along this alley I've stayed in one before, ADUs. They're just larger footprints because they're on the first floor. But yeah, I'm.
There we go. We can hear you now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, they fixed whatever the issue was.
Oh, good,
So
okay.
nobody has to scream at us anymore. We can hear. Thank you. Yeah, so, I know that we are just kind of cruising through the staff report. We are still missing a couple of key things, kind of 3 key things. One is materials. One is height of the garage with foundation. I think we're trying to understand, just to make sure 21.4 is full
That's max.
proposed. That's with foundation height?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, what else were we missing? Comparison to actual heights of other surrounding garages.
You don't have that? Okay.
So I think no matter what, our feedback today was going to be that we need those things to,
Okay.
even if everybody said, hey, I love it, I don't care about the height, we would still need documentation of those. So just kind of starting there since it's low-hanging fruit. Commissioners, any questions, commentary, updated thoughts?
Sorry. I was going to say, I appreciate your willingness to take feedback and work with the commission and work with your neighbors. See that you've brought the height down a couple of feet, and I think that will go a long way. At least it does for me. We have this conversation, I feel like most commission meetings, the 1.5 story versus 2 story, whereas like even if it's 1.5, you're still getting that height anyway, but now it's gonna feel, you're either gonna have like weird dormers or something that doesn't do that much for the massing when it's, your peak is still essentially at the same height anyway. I mean, these are 8-foot ceilings, and we have abutting 2-story, right, Katie?
Yeah, there are abutting.
Yeah.
There's abutting 2-story accessory structures.
So I personally would be happy to move this forward, with the condition that you get everything staff needs. Just I feel like if we're gonna do the height, just do the height and get the use out of it that you actually want.
Yeah, I didn't want to do, I know 1.5s typically have that weird gable, and it doesn't go with the house at all. What's on there is the 512 pitch. It's exactly what's on the house. So yeah, I didn't love that option of weird gable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be helpful to see it in the context of your house, of the main structure, and how tall that is, just so, we can make sure that it truly is secondary in all aspects, including height. But
I think that height comparison is in there.
I missed it.
Should be.
I saw some, I saw in the packet some photographic evidence of the heights of this as related to some of the 2 stories, but not the 1 stories. Do you have anything, like, just trying to get full context on what it would look like, with the abutting 1-story garages as well? Since it is it in there, Angela, and we're just missing it?
Yeah, I've got one. I don't think so. I think it's just the house, and it should have the 2 stories in there as well. House, garage height. Okay. I can send that over again.
Okay.
Those are all my comments.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm kind of the outlier here in that I read the guideline as saying when there's no photograph or other documentation of the historic garage, then only at that point can you move to a 2-story garage or a 1.5-story garage. I view the Sanborn map, which identifies the previous garage as a 1-story garage, locking you into a 1-story garage. And I know that there are talks about, well, there are going to be changes and all of this, so why aren't we doing this now? My thing is if speed limit's going to change on a road in 2 months to be 80, but it's 60 now, you can still be ticketed for it. So I'm very much that, in your case, since we have a Sanborn map drawing that indicates a 1-story garage, that it has to be a 1-story garage. That's my comment.
Why don't we jump to members of the public and just be mindful of, again, that we're going to lose quorum at 4 o'clock, and there are lots of people hoping to get some CAs today. So let's get started on that, and we can go through any questions as we move through those comments. And if you just will state your name and address for the record and sign in there.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I was kind of looking forward to being in the school play, but I'll try to keep it a little lower than that. My name's Raina Polofsky. I live at 822 Northwest 16th Street in the block same block as this proposal. But before I make my comments, I just want to give you all a shout out for devoting your time and attention and energy to doing this job. I know it's difficult. For over a decade, I served as the Historic Preservation Officer in Mesta Park, so I know how time-consuming and involved these cases can be. In fact, I'm getting that old familiar pit in my stomach that I have when I have to speak in front of the public. I remember it well. Good times. Anyway, I'm here today to speak about two similar projects on my block that involve the construction of a new garage where the original was formerly demolished. Of course, in any case that involves the new construction, the first question that we must answer is just what Mr. Wood here has mentioned. Before we can even move forward, does the proposal meet HP standard 4.4.5? This is a standard, not a guideline. And for those of us who don't know, as defined in our officially adopted Historic Preservation Standards and Guidelines Manual, a standard is a rule or principle that's used as a basis for the judgment and applies mandatory terms such as shall and will. A guideline, on the other hand, is a policy or recommended approach that uses more permissive terms like should or may. In other words, a standard is a requirement and a guideline is not. So standard 4.4.5, a requirement, states that new construction shall approximate the original configuration, form, massing, style, placement, and detail of the former garage as described by photographic or other documentation. Note that it does not require photographic and other documentation. It only requires photographic or other documentation. So what constitutes other documentation? I've read over the staff report for this case, and I find myself thoroughly confused, quite frankly. For example, I find myself scratching my head over finding 5 of the staff report, which states that no documentation of the previously existing garage is known beyond the Sanborn map illustration. To which I reply, huh? Commissioners, the Sanborn maps are the only documentation we need in this case to answer the question we asked earlier, which is, does this construction comply with standard 4.4.5? In this case, the Sanborn maps from 1919, 1922, and 1922 to 1950 definitively prove that the original garage on this property was 1 story, which means that we are required to approximate the form and massing of the original structure.
We're at 3 minutes, just so you know.
I don't know how this happened, but Sanborn maps seem to have been shoved into a back closet somewhere in the basement, but it's time we pulled them back out and hung them on the mantle above the fireplace in the living room where they belong. Sanborn maps are not casual illustrations. They're technical surveys created for fire underwriters who require absolute accuracy on building mass and height, and they definitively record the number of stories of the primary and secondary structures. The Library of Congress states that Sanborn maps are unrivaled sources of information. The National Park Service accepts Sanborn maps as evidence to establish a building's historic integrity and chronologies of change. And in many jurisdictions, including ours, a Sanborn map is the only surviving record of a building's height and other features.
Ma'am, I am so sorry, but if we want to allow anybody else to speak, we really do have to keep it moving along.
All right. I will say that this proposal does not meet 4.4.5. And I really feel that, let's see, let me just skip ahead here.
I'm so sorry, but are you the only member, are you speaking for this group, or are we having, okay, I'm really sorry. I would encourage you to send as long of a letter as you would like to send next time, but we do have to
I did send a letter. A lot of times I don't know if you've read it or not.
No, we're reading it. I've got it right in front of me, and I read it yesterday as well.
I feel that this case does not meet the standard and needs to be denied with prejudice or continued with the stipulation that it is just strictly a 1-story garage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, and guys, I feel so rude hammering this over and over, but we really do have to keep it to 3 minutes. It's disrespectful to the rest of the people on the docket to not have them heard today, and I apologize that we don't have more commissioners. It's a chronic problem, as you all probably know.
I'll be quick.
Okay. And I am being corrected that our language says 3, but apparently the letter of the law says 5.
Yeah, the
so.
agenda said 5 minutes, so we'll stick to 5 minutes.
Well, I'll be quick.
Thank you. Would you state your name and address for the record?
Steve Mathis.
Thank you. Welcome.
And I live on 16th Street. Now, Raina covered the 4.4.5, but in case that's not enough, there's also 4.4.11, which states that a new two-story garage should be similar in height to historic two-story garages of adjacent properties in the streetscape or historic district. First of all, there aren't any two-story garages on this alley. The building that they're referencing and trying to use as justification has always been a carriage house. I was in it this weekend. The stairs preclude there ever have been a car in there. It's a hayloft. It's got doors for hayloft. It was a carriage house. There is a one-story garage on the lot on 805, and it's pretty old. There is also a one-story garage at 801. Now, the reason I mention that is 801 and 805 were both one lot at one time. So this building, the carriage house that they're using as justification, was on 801 property. It was then split, and you can go look at the building. It's been painted down the middle, but historically, this wasn't even an abutting building. So that's one thing. The second thing is these carriage houses are less than 18 feet tall. Now, the rule plainly states that you're supposed to do this in accordance. If you're going to approve a 2-story or 1.5 story, it needs to be less than 18 feet tall. That's the height of this existing building, and that's what the rules say. It also says in 4.4.12, the new garages and blocks that contain only one-story garages shall be one-story. There is not a 2-story garage in this block, except for the monstrosity that was allowed to be built at 804. The gray one that she referred to as not wanting to repeat. That one was passed without any commentary. I read the review. It was passed without any commentary on the height. There was plenty of commentary on stucco and windows, but not on height. So what I want to say is this garage is proposed, a 1.5 or 2-story garage, is not what is allowed, as Mr. Wood said. And so that should be the end of it. But if not, I've given you 2 more examples of how this doesn't meet the rules that our own guidelines say we should be following. And I would like this as well to be dismissed with prejudice and come back as a 1-story garage, which is what it's supposed to be.
Thank you. Okay, next up. Welcome. If you'll just state your name and address there.
I'm Patty Phelps, and I'm next door. I'm 815 Northwest 16th Street, and I'm not going to go through all the stuff that's already been said, but I do want to mention that when there's inconsistency and argument as to which we're going to follow and what we're not going to follow, I think we need to look at the intention of historic preservation. Their standards are in place to help keep our neighborhood historic and look, atmosphere, and feel, and as much as possible to continue to look like it did when the neighborhood was established. So I believe when there was a 2-story garage, it should be replaced with one. When there was a 1-story garage, it should be replaced with one. And when there's no evidence, then it should be like all the other structures on the block, or the dominant structure on the block. So I believe that the intention of the historic preservation standards wasn't to find loopholes that allow anything to be built. And a garage apartment at 809 is not historic to that spot and is clearly not similar to the size and mass of the dominant garages on the block. Its construction is designed like many of the modern garages going up in other non-historic neighborhoods, and it will stand out in our alley as brand new and not fitting. And I want to thank you for your time. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
This was less than 3 minutes, and I took a paragraph out. So.
Thank you. Would you
My
state
name
your
is Andy Sullivan.
Great.
Let me write this down. Okay. So in 1976, I came here and I interviewed for a job at the Health Science Center. They asked me where I was going to live, and I said where I live now, and they said, you don't want to live there. That's a bad neighborhood, and your kids won't be able to go to school there. So we ignored that, bought a house for $45,000 that was dilapidated, and have restored it. We were here before there was a neighborhood association. It was the comeback and then eventually Mesta Park. We worked hard to get historic preservation approved, and we appreciate what you do, and we appreciate historic preservation. Previously, a case came before this body that was similar. It was in the 800 block of 17th Street. The person was building a two-story structure where a previous one-story garage existed, and he started without a permit. You all know that. And so anyway, that was denied. And I think he also said he needed office space. If this unit's going to have 5 bedrooms or whatever, I don't know why it needs office space. But anyway, I think one other thing. At this time, in the 800 and 900 block of 16th Street, there are cars parked on both sides of the street most of the day. So to go through, you have to do one at a time. A two-car garage, one story, that would be used as a garage to park cars would be a welcome addition. I think that anything that's taller than that should not be allowed. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public on this case? One more? Okay. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Robin Olander. I'm also speaking for my husband, who's out of town. We own 805 Northwest 16th, so the house that's just to the east of the proposed garage. I thought I had 5 minutes to speak, so I've totally cut this down and reordered it so it may not flow as it did it before. But
and you do have 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll try to keep it short because the letters that the neighbors, the opposition letters they submitted were all very excellent. I don't want to repeat any of that. I agree with everything people said in those letters and have said today. Since the carriage house is an issue, that's on my property. So like Steve just said, a lumber yard owner has the house 801, and then his daughter or son, my house was built in 1907 for one of his children, and 809 was for another child. The carriage house, like Steve said, it was for the horse supplies, horse buggies. It's a very historic structure from the 1907 time frame, and right next to it is a stable and stalls for the horses, which are still in their original state. They're very old, but it's very clear that that's what they are. There's a hay loft to throw the hay, room that they pulled put all the horse supplies, etc. It was never, when I bought my house, the owner had detailed historic records and pictures of the property dating back to when it was originally built. It has always been a carriage house. It has never been a garage. It would be absolutely impossible to put a car in it in its current state. There's a 2-foot high foundation wall on the alley. There's no doors back there. There's nothing. You'd have to fly over the foundation to get onto the alley. It's not a car garage and never was. The stable will accommodate 1 car. It's in its original state, and I really was hoping, it's my favorite thing of my property, to keep those 2 structures as the only residual structures of a carriage house and a stable in the neighborhood. I took measurements, and also I looked at my paperwork for the mortgage of the carriage house. The carriage house is 16 feet tall on the backyard side and 18 feet tall on the street side. As I've said, or the alley side, as I've said, the alley is 2 feet lower than my backyard. It has a not very tall roof. It doesn't have one of these big steeped roofs. It's a very small roof as far as height. And my measurements include the roof. Since it's only a half on my property and a half next door at 801, it's about 15 feet in length on my property at the back. The stable is only 8 to 9 feet tall and 15 feet wide, so it occupies the bulk of the length of my backyard. I'm checking things because I'm going out of order. When I moved here 15 years ago, I immediately wanted to live in Mesta Park because of the big historic houses and big trees and friendly neighbors and the community spirit. We have a wonderful block. I also live directly across the alley from the referenced oversized two-story garage at 804 Northwest 17th Street. I'm a medical professional. I was out of town for a year during COVID to help at an underserved hospital. And when I came back, that was all of a sudden there. The garage before was one story. It was
Thank you for your time. It's 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. We just have to follow the process. Thank you for your commentary. Please be brief.
I was cut off earlier. I prepared for 5 minutes, and that's what I
had 5 minutes because we called it at 3 minutes.
I don't think I did, because I was cut off after 3 minutes. And I have one last point I wanted to make, please, which is that in this case, the answer to the question about whether the proposal meets standard 4.4.5 is emphatically no. The original garage was one story, documented on 3 consecutive Sanborn maps. Therefore, we are mandated to approximate the original by replacing it with a one-story garage. Once that question is answered, none of the subsequent guidelines apply to this case. Abutting and adjacent properties are irrelevant. The rest of the design features don't matter because the structure does not meet the standard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your commentary. I know that I always appreciate a kind of back to earth moment and a reminder of why we do have preservation and the broader impacts of some of the micro decisions we make up here. I personally feel we're not quite there yet, and I think you're having a little potential conflict within what you would like to do to move forward as well. So my opinion is I'd like to continue it and see, at a minimum, we need to see the 3 things that we requested earlier. So unless somebody has a different opinion or feels really strongly about it, I think it deserves another round.
Yeah, does anyone have any other thoughts? I know that any other block we would get to a conclusion. So I'd love to know if any other thoughts as far as guidelines or, helping me steer in the right direction.
Yeah, anytime somebody's wanting more than is requested, my advice is shrink it to the absolute minimum you can shrink it. You may have already done that. Beyond that, I don't know that I have any other than just maybe taking a pause for consideration on the things we've requested and the commentary that's been issued and trying to decide, where you want to take that. Okay. I understand it isn't your primary residence, but we, like we mentioned last month, we review plans, not people. So we are weighing the garage, not its final purpose or who's living there or who's using it. So just a lot to consider this month.
And like I said before, I would work with staff. It's much easier for us to approve something when we get a request or a recommendation from staff to approve it. And I would like to thank everybody that talked, but I do not appreciate as a commissioner an attack on staff due to their wording in a report. And it is very clear to me when it says that no documentation of the previously existing garage is known beyond the Sanborn fire insurance maps illustration, that they are referencing that as documentation. So I'm sorry that someone that spoke doesn't understand what that means, but I, as a commissioner, understand what that means, and specifically do not tolerate attacks on staff due to their wording. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody potentially have a motion or want to issue any further commentary?
Do you have a preference on June or July?
When is June due for plans?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Which one? Huh? July? June? Okay.
We'll try for June, and then is that okay if I get back with you?
You'll be out of continuances.
If we continue to June, then it has to go on the agenda
Oh, it does.
in June. Mhm.
Okay.
And that would be your last at bat, so to speak.
I know, he can. I think July. I might not be here, but we're gonna say July.
Yeah, I think that's the smart move. I think there's a lot to follow up on, and
Yeah.
And I know sometimes these things feel like they're at an impasse, but maybe just a fresh conversation with neighbors, and maybe you all trying to come to some sort of happy medium. If we give you a couple of months to do so, maybe everybody will be a little happier.
Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to continue HPCA 26-00032 to the July meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, we will see you in July. So moving on to HPCA 26-00034 at 1607 Classen Drive.
This is Heritage Hills, Ward 6, consideration and possible action on application by Sarah Wernicke for Old Home Rescue for Linda Froelich for Certificate of Appropriateness 2. I'm not going to read off all the items, but it's various repairs and replacements of doors and railings and such. We have recommended approval of all items except for a continuance of the replacement of the front door. We do not have documentation of a historic front door here, door in the side lights. So just wanted the commission to make a decision on whether or not the proposed replacement door was appropriate to the style of the house. And then on the side lights, they are proposed with leaded glass, which the guidelines are pretty clear about not supporting if we don't have evidence that there was leaded glass historically. It's not a particularly common material in the neighborhood. And the applicant is here.
Okay.
Before she starts, may I ask a question of staff? I read through it twice. I did not see a recommendation as to item 2 in the report.
So item 2 is listed here, but it's actually ordinary maintenance and repair, and they don't need approval for it. So we just included it in the, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, we give full breadth of what we're doing, and then we get piecemealed of where it's gonna land.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think the only thing that's really warranting much of a discussion is the leaded glass, unless you've got some documentation of the door and glass that we don't currently have.
No, so Sarah Wernicke, Old Home Rescue, talking about 1607 Classen Drive. Yeah, and I'm just here to answer any questions that you have. But yeah, this, we are correcting some flipper issues. And so the existing entry assembly is like the 4th or 5th iteration of, like we have the Heritage Hills book, and it shows it as one way. We got the nomination showing it in a different way. So yeah, we are just, the image that we used was from the American Architecture, Residential Architecture book about, it's a rough sketch of what an appropriate entry for colonial revival is, and went with that. So
I'm a big fan of the door choice, and I think it's really appropriate, and certainly without any knowledge to the contrary, I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, and it's also for security because it's really open right now, and you can, by walking down the street, can see all the way through the house due to the flippers on the inside removing walls, and so you can look all the way through. So the majority of the assembly is for that additional security and privacy.
Talk to us about the motivation for the leaded glass. It's a little ornamental if we don't know that it was there.
A little
otherwise.
ornamental, but yeah, I mean, we'd be willing to explore another option for it. But again, it was just mainly for privacy and privacy and security.
Do we have any info regarding what was there? I mean, I know we don't know that there was leaded glass, but does anybody know what was there, in 1990?
In 1990, it was one of those doofy multi-light. The side lights were multi-lights of various opacity, I think.
Okay.
And then the door itself had one of those stupid oval, like very much.
How about 1950?
That I don't know.
Okay.
We don't have any
I know we don't
documentation.
have the original. I just was curious if there was any iteration of it that would lend clarity.
All the iterations that we've been able to find of this property they've all been very inappropriate.
And if we deem that the leaded glass is a little too ornamental for this facade, what's your next, do you have a game plan?
Yeah, we can explore another option of glass and perhaps make it, less ornamental. And we can work with staff to figure out what the best configuration would be.
Would you be able to administratively approve that?
I would need to look. We typically wouldn't administratively approve new side lights where we don't have, that's why it's here now, is because we don't have evidence of what the historic condition was. If the commission gave some direction, I'm looking at the drawing of the entrance, if they came back and the side lights were clear glass, that's something that I think staff would be comfortable with. But the guidelines are not supportive of leaded or frosted or sanded or, other kind of treated glasses generally. So we would want that to come back to you all if it was anything other than clear.
Okay. How does clear glass sound?
Sounds great. Sorry, the property owner's here, the homeowner's here, so I'm going to defer to those with her.
Well, it sounds like we could absolutely get this moved forward with an agreed upon condition unless there is a member of the public who wants to come speak about it. Anybody? Anybody have a motion?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve all items on HPCA-26-00034 with the specific findings, conditions, and additional information found in the staff report, and with the condition that the applicant revise the leaded glass to clear glass.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being willing to make some changes and just get with staff and get that taken care of. All right, HPCA 26-00039 at 524 Northwest 18th Street.
This is Mesta Park, Ward 6, consideration and possible action on application by Frank Benson, MHM Construction, Inc., for Nancy Thompson for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install roof-mounted solar panels required. This is an item that was completed already. The work is done, but the commission has to review it as if it were not done. I do want to note that they did get the proper solar permit. There is an error in the process of that not being routed to us properly. So they were trying to follow the rules, but the solar panels were installed without a certificate of appropriateness. We've recommended approval with a condition that the forwardmost panels that are in a visible location on the roof be removed or relocated so as not to be visible from the street, and a condition that they verify that all of the additional mechanical equipment associated with the solar panels be screened.
Okay, great. Is the applicant present? Okay, the applicant is not present.
So what I would say is that all of this actually, if it is not visible from the right-of-way, can be administratively approved. We could continue this to July 1, and between now and then, staff can work toward an administratively approvable solution with the applicant.
That works for me. I know Mesta Park sent in some comments. Does anybody want to come speak to those? Any members of the public? Okay, there being none, anybody have a motion?
I will make a motion on HPCA-26-00039 to continue all items to the July meeting.
Great, do we have a second?
It's you this time.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we will potentially take another look at that one in July. Next up, HPCA 26-00043 at 824 Northwest 16th Street in Mesta Park.
This is consideration and possible action on application by Ryan Fogel for a certificate of appropriateness to item 1, construct garage elective. This property had a one-story flat-roofed, low-sloped flat-roof garage that was demolished previously. They actually had a certificate of appropriateness to construct a one-story garage with pitched roof that has expired, and they've reapplied to construct a 1.5-story garage with a dormer on the side slope of the roof facing into the backyard. Staff has recommended continuance, noting some issues with roof form. I'm trying to remember now what else was raised in the staff report on this one. But the applicant is present. You have a number of comments from the public, and the staff report recommended a continuance.
Okay, great. Would you state your name and address, please?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Ryan Fogel. I'm the owner at 824 Northwest 16th Street. I've got some remarks I was just gonna
Sure thing.
say real quick. I'm here to present my revised proposal for a 1.5-story auto house. I want to be very clear, this design is a direct result from listening. We moved entirely away from our previous 2-story efforts in order to try and find a true middle ground that respects the guidelines, protects my neighbor's privacy, and fulfills my family's needs. When reviewing guideline 4.4.13 regarding 1.5-story garages, the main consideration is massing. We have meticulously designed this building to be secondary and subordinate to the primary historic home. While the overall ridge height is 17'11", our eave height is kept extremely modest at 8'5". And because the roof slopes away from our neighbors, the perceived mass from the ground is incredibly low. Additionally, we have designed the dormer to face west, looking into our own yard, which protects the privacy and property to the east. Regarding the historic context, the Sanborn map from 1922 explicitly documents the auto house on this site, while the later flat roof shed was lost to rot and delayed maintenance, a common issue with the flat roof sheds. Let's see. Our proposal restores a functional auto structure near the historic footprint, and it kind of matches the historic block face rhythm established by multi-story accessory structures nearby and directly abutting our property. As noted in the staff report, it's fully complied with the guidelines, with the materials, and it's tucked behind our historic home in Port-a-Cachère, meaning it will have zero negative impact on the public streetscape. We've compromised, we have done our historical research, and we have written support from neighbors on our block. I respectfully asked for an approval of our certificate of appropriateness today. Thanks.
Thank you. I have a quick question for staff. In the packet, this garage is described as both 17.5 inches and 17.11 inches. And then it does go on to clarify that there's another 4 inches of foundation, but since we are really getting picky with the heights of these garages, I wanted to clarify whether it's 17.5 or 17 and 11.
So the elevation drawings do show the total height to the peak of the roof as 1711. So I think that's the accurate height.
Okay, thank you.
That may have just been a typo at some point in the process.
Okay. So, we're basically being asked to increase the height of something we already approved by 3 feet, correct? I mean, it's a new application, but the commission did approve a 14.5-foot garage on this site?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes. It was a pitched roof, 1-story garage previously, so yes, about 14 feet. That was approved, not that existed historically.
Okay. My question for the applicant, I'm noticing the dormer, but I'm not noticing room for stairs, and so just kind of curious what the intended use of the space above the garage is.
Yeah, it's just mostly for flex space. Could be craft space, could be storage, maybe a home office.
Where do you plan to put the stairs?
It'd be internal. It'd be probably like a kind of a ship's ladder or just kind of a vertical ladder type situation.
Okay. The height for me feels pretty appropriate to the neighborhood, and I do appreciate the thoughtfulness. The dormer and the window on the dormer are the things that are kind of bothering me a little bit, just with the scale and window design. Commissioners, any thoughts on that?
I agree with the proportion of the window. You know, we don't see many kind of clear story shaped, you know, elongated picture frame windows historically, and definitely I don't think in garages. So I don't know if that's something that could be tweaked. And the other thing, this doesn't personally bother me, but I know we've harped on it before, is that we typically have not always not approved gable end garages. Usually we make a comment for them to change it to a hip roof. That's not quite as big a deal for me personally, but thought it was worth bringing up just for consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Another thing I noted was just the single garage door versus separation in 2 doors. I mean, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about some of these basically, changes we're starting to request? Is it something that's doable? Is it the hill you're going to die on? Where could we get with this?
Definitely appreciate the feedback for sure. The dormer does kind of replicate what's on the front end of the house. It's on the photo above. Just to get some usable space in there, I was trying to kind of create about a 10-foot wide space where it could fit like a desk or something. The 1-car garage, I did that because it's just such a tight porte-cochere. This thing literally probably had a double or a Model T in it. It's less than 8 foot wide. So once you kind of get past that, I wanted to have like free ground to like not crash into anything else by having a wider garage, like wider than the porte-cochere. So maneuverability was an issue, which the staff report noted.
Yeah, that was actually one question I had, and I apologize if it's in here. There was a lot going on in this packet. Do you know how wide your portico is?
It's 8 feet.
And you don't have any sort of concrete turnaround at the rear?
No.
Okay. I mean, for me, that's certainly enough justification for a single door. I think that would be just next to impossible to navigate out of, and that just is what it is.
What is the size of the door you're proposing?
Size of the width?
Yeah.
It's 20 foot east-west, out to out. I think depth-wise, it's like 22 maybe, but.
Oh, sorry, no, the garage door.
The garage door, oh, I'm sorry.
The door is 16 feet.
Okay, I was about to be like,
yeah.
20's a stretch. Yeah, okay, 16's great.
For me, it's the dormer. I feel like it's the lack of symmetry and the window placement on it, and the scale is related to the garage. And I think Caitlin's right. We often don't approve these gable roofs. There are enough of them in that area and in the neighborhood in general for me to not feel that disrupts the character of the neighborhood. But the gable is throwing it a little out of whack for me. And
The gable was there on the previously approved garage, so I didn't change the gable. I just added the dormer, if that.
I'm sorry, I probably said gable. It's the dormer that's throwing me off. I apologize.
The dormer was kind of necessary to just make it functional upstairs.
Right, we were reviewing this as a 1.5 story that didn't have a staircase, so I think we were reviewing it as attic space. So functionality and natural light is kind of not key to extra storage in the way that it would be to extra living space.
Mm-hmm. And my comment is from the report, it appears we have documentation of the previous historic garage available in photographs, and you're stuck with the one story.
Well, it was a shed, I think, if I'm reading it correctly.
Correct.
The staff report says that documentation of a previous historic garage is available in photographs.
Is it something we are deeming a garage?
So there's photos in your
right
packet. I mean, it was, and let me see, do we say in the?
I think it's in the actual application where the photos are.
I mean, the Sanborn maps show a one-story frame auto house on the easternmost property line in the rear of the yard. And then in the packet, there are photos in the application from the applicant. There are photos of the structure that was there. So it's very small. It's a very modest structure. It's a sloped, flat roof. The extent to which it was used as a garage or, at some point ceased to function as a garage, I don't know. It had the sliding barn-style doors on the front of it. Here, I can share a.
Yeah, I read the report as if it was a garage, and that shed was terminology that the applicant was using.
Can we scroll down one photo here? Yeah, so I struggle to call that a garage in any form or fashion. It's certainly an accessory structure, but for me, that's not something I would ever weigh a potential future garage against. It doesn't feel relevant or appropriate to do so, but in as much as you have your opinion on that matter, that's mine.
Wouldn't be a garage I want, but it looks like a garage to me. Because it has doors that slide open that would allow something to be driven in and out of it.
A lawnmower. A lawnmower. Bicycle, yes.
Or a car from the 1900s.
Sure.
Or 1910s or 20s, a much smaller vehicle, or who knows what it was used for. I mean, and the Sanborn maps reflect a one-story garage on this. I just really think that we need to get to a point where we have consistent views, or not consistent views, but consistent messaging on this issue. And if we're not going to follow the guidelines, if the guidelines are just going to go out the door, then what are we doing here? I mean, we put staff in a position to not really know. I mean, they have extreme knowledge of these guidelines. And I know that we talk about circumstances and things like that, but it's unique circumstances. If something occurs 3 times within a block, I don't look at that as unique. Unique means something highly different from any other thing, in my view. But once again, that's just me. I mean, I think we are doing a very big disservice whenever we are approving 1.5-story garages, 2-story garages, that from the reading of the guidelines should never be approved except in a unique circumstance.
You know, one thing I'll jump in to add about the kind of notion of a 1.5 story, it's my opinion that the reason for an existence of a 1.5 story is primarily for storage and design. And we've mentioned this a few times in the past 3 or 4 months specifically, that people are really like stretching that boundary to be, you know, and now we've gotten a foot or two taller, and now we've got a dormer on the east side, and now we've got one on the west side. And so it is kind of becoming a thing that is more problematic than we realized it might be upon approving the first couple. It's kind of become endemic. And so I think that's why I'm struggling with the dormer. When I reviewed this and saw that there was not an interior or exterior staircase and saw the footprint of it and the height, I thought, you know, okay, like maybe they just want the dormer for design aesthetic. I am always of the opinion that if you want a 2-story garage, it should be presented as a 2-story garage. We don't want to come back in 6 months and be asking for an exterior staircase on something we never would have approved or something like that. So I'd rather just like call a spade, and if we're looking for living space up there, review it as it's going to permanently be.
I agree.
Anybody else?
I mean, I don't agree. Yeah. I agree with we need to be reviewing this. Don't come in and say, oh, well, I don't know what that space is going to be used. It could be this, it could be that. And I agree that if a 1.5 story garage is being proposed and its massing and height mimic the original historic garage or is consistent with that as the guidelines state. Let me get the exact, when design and height approximate the massing of a previous historic garage at the property, then we can consider that 1.5 story at that time. But that's specifically what the guideline says. It says that 1 and 1/2 story garages are allowed when design and height approximate the massing of a previous historic garage at the property. But in this particular case, in the earlier case, we don't even get to that because we have documentation, and here we have photograph of what staff has told us is the previous historic garage. And now if the applicant can provide us documentation that staff is wrong, I'm willing to look at that. But if staff's telling me that we have photographic documentation of the previous historic garage, I'm accepting staff's word on that.
I mostly agree with you, but on the point of mimicking what was already there, to me, this might be a unique circumstance to do something a little different because a flat roof is not common on a historic garage. What the shed that was there, the smaller footprint, and a flat roof is not something that we would approve in any other, unless it was like very specific to like a Spanish style of the home or something that might have a flat roof, but this doesn't. And I don't feel like we can make him put that back exactly because it's not something that we would normally approve. So I feel like there's a little bit of leeway there to have a little bit of additional height, whether it's 1 story or 1.5 story.
Well,
that is
regardless, this was approved at 14.5 feet in 2021. So I mean, to me, that's the bare minimum of anything that should be.
This property, this applicant was previously approved to construct a garage with a pitched roof with a front-facing gable. I do think, we do have flat-roofed garages. We have actually quite a few of them, and we've had them documented over the years. We've lost many of them because they are so small. The roofs are a maintenance challenge. So while I would say that they're not atypical of the neighborhood historically, they are not what we expect to see when people come in and want to build a functional 2-story garage, 2-car garage, at their site. So I do think that perhaps the nature of what was there historically presents a unique circumstance for this property. How far that unique circumstance takes you, in approving something that is a different roof form, that is taller, is I think what the commission is being asked to consider. But the commission has previously, in recent years, approved a one-story garage with a front-facing gable roof.
Let's go ahead and, there are a lot of letters from members of the public, many in support and many in opposition. Is there anybody who wants to get up and speak to this matter? Okay, come on up and just state your name and address for the record.
Hi again, Commissioners. Just a reminder, my name is Raina Polofsky, and I live at 822 Northwest 16th Street. And in this case, my property abuts the Fogels on the east. I will just say, I have my original garage. It is flat roofed. It very much looks like the original garage that was at this property before it was illegally demolished by the previous owners. And I have maintained my flat roofed garage for over 30 years. I put a good roof on it, and I haven't had any problems with it. So it is very typical of the original structures in Mesta Park, and I just want to make that point. Now, I find myself in a very unpleasant situation because I like the Fogels. I'm watching their kids grow up next door, and I respect their right to a functional garage. However, this 1.5 story, the staff report says a total of 18 feet 3 inches proposal, which is a 100% increase in the vertical mass of the original 1-story flat roofed garage, is not remotely in compliance with standard 4.4.5, which I've already talked about. As proposed, this case represents a true test of the relevance of our HP standards and guidelines, and in my opinion, gets to the very purpose of this commission, as was mentioned earlier. I've already elaborated on the difference between a standard and a guideline, so I won't spend time doing that again, but as we learned earlier, when it comes to new construction, the first question we have to answer is, does the proposal meet the standard 4.4.5? And the answer, if the answer is no, the proposal cannot move forward without revision. You remember that this term shall is mandated. This case presents more extensive documentation of the original garage than the previous case at 809 Northwest 16th Street. In this case, we're fortunate to have photographic documentation of the original structure, as well as the Sanborn maps from 1919, 1922, and then 22 to 1950, which is irrefutable evidence of the original garage. So the answer to our question, does the proposal meet the standard, is no. Therefore, as I explained earlier, none of the other guidelines apply in this case. Abutting, adjoining, adjacent properties, or really any properties in the neighborhood are completely irrelevant because we've established that the documented original condition of this specific property is a 1-story flat roof garage. And we're mandated to require that the new construction approximates the original form and massing, which is a 1-story flat garage that was approximately 8 to 10 feet high, which is like mine, just like mine. Clearly, the 1.5 story, 18-foot, 3-inch proposal cannot be approved. The fact that there was a previous approval of a garage is irrelevant too because it's expired. This is a new proposal, and the previous proposal that was approved is no longer in effect and shouldn't be considered. I wanted to get an unbiased opinion about what a modest or reasonable accommodation might look like to accommodate modern vehicles while retaining the original character of the flat roof, which the standards require us to do. So I did a little informal AI analysis that I provided to you in my opposition letter. I used 8-foot walls for the analysis since that's what is in the proposal, which allows for 7-foot garage door height, large enough for a full-size SUV. And the analysis is available on my letter, but the bottom line is that the best match for a formerly flat-roofed garage of this height would have a total peak height of 10 feet 6 inches, which allows a slight pitch for drainage. This is not my opinion. This is an AI analysis of what the most historically appropriate garage roof height would be in this scenario.
30 seconds.
I have a rendering in my letter that says that. So, Commissioners, I said at the beginning of this case that this case offers a true test of the relevance of the standards and guidelines and the very purpose of this commission. The original garage is known, photographic documentation is on record, the sandboard map is validation, and the standard mandates compliance. We must pass this kind of test if we intend to protect the fragile
Thank you for your time.
of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, any other members of the public? All right. And guys, we've got 20 minutes and 2 more cases.
Yeah. I just want to say I helped carry this garage out to the curb when they knocked it down. 2 houses down, 1 house the other side of Reina's is an identical garage that is still functioning as a garage. If you drive down 16th Street, you can see it. They put a brand new 2025 SUV in it. And so it is possible to use a garage of this size as a functional garage. And you can go see that. I think it's directly across the street from me, and I'm at 819. So if you want to see that in real life, you can. I want Brian to get a garage. By the way, he has the coolest house at Halloween that you've ever seen. So at Halloween, please come by our street and see his house. It's awesome.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Commissioners, it's my opinion that it is not reasonable to ask somebody to put up a 10-foot tall flat roof garage, and I would not advocate for going that direction. I understand it is mimicking the original form, but I think we can move forward with something that's a little more compatible with this year and the needs of people living in these homes and caring for them. I don't think that the dormer and the window is appropriate and it's contributing to a massing problem. So I would like to see some, just at a minimum, design revisions. Anybody else have specific feedback or love it the way it is?
I agree with you on the dormer. I think we're good with the gable end, since we'd already approved that anyway.
So it was, to confirm, it was a gable end in 2021 when it was proposed? Okay, sorry, that was before. I don't think anybody was actually here in 2021, so. Are you open to making revisions and bringing it back?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's just keep working at this one. Like we said the last go around, anything you can do to shrink the height. We are seeing a problem of people kind of abusing the 1.5-story garage language. So anything you can do that you feel like might be to your benefit to get it a little smaller and more compact, I think would be really appropriate here.
Okay. Would you be open to a conditional approval where I work with the staff to make those changes?
I don't think I am. I don't know we're not requesting something really specific, and I don't think staff can administratively approve a new garage, can you?
Well, it would be a condition that they submit something to staff. I would say I have not yet heard enough clarity in what you all want to see to be comfortable with that being just a submit to staff. Typically it's a more specific direction.
I would prefer a hip roof, and I think you'd do a little better with a dormer if you did that. But I think that's kind of dealer's choice as to whether, which boundary are you pushing. But I think in this proposal, you're pushing both. So my feedback would be, choose one or the other.
Okay.
Anybody else have specifics we can give him so he can bring something back next month?
All I got.
Okay. Would you like to be heard on the June docket or July?
Let's do June.
Okay. Anybody have a motion?
Yep, I will make a motion on HPCA 26-00043 to continue all items to the June meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, great. If you guys would please vote in Prime Gov. Okay, we'll see you in June.
And I just want to say my 17 minutes from now out is very hard. I can't miss the end of your orchestra.
Okay. Okay, moving on to HPCA 26-00045 at 841 Northwest 17th Street in Mesta Park.
This is consideration and possible action on an application by Eden Moore for Courtney Blau for certificate of appropriateness to make various repairs and replacements to the house and garage. We have recommended approval of all items except for continuance of the side door. It is visible from the street, and so we would want to see a different door material because of that level of visibility. That is something that could be approved by staff in the interim on, if continued. And then continuance on the garage door. They are going from a sliding barn style door to an overhead garage door, and we just need more detail on the installation of that and what changes will occur to the opening.
Okay, would you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Eden Moore, 621 Northwest 18th Street.
Okay, for the sake of brevity, let's just cut right to the chase. Sounds like this is something we could get to a staff approval with agreed upon conditions. Are you open to a wood door?
On that?
At the side?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. The garage door, we had some dimension problems,
Condition
right?
that the details and dimensions of the garage door opening be submitted to staff.
What were those? The garage door is going back in the exact same place.
I think it was the header, right?
So the concern is that you're going from an opening where the doors are sliding back and forth to a door that is installed within. We just wanted to get more detail from you on how that installation is going to work as you're going from two different types of door styles.
Okay.
So
I think the concern was there was not enough of a header to accommodate a motor and rails. Is that correct?
I think just overall understanding of.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
So you can get that fully dimensioned for.
Just draw it? Yeah. Okay.
So they just need to see that documentation.
Okay, so you just need documentation that the door is going where it's drawn on the elevation.
And that there's room for the equipment. Yeah.
Dimension at all.
Yes.
Over dimension, to be safe.
Did you have that?
Like a section drawing showing how the door interacts with the opening itself, that it's going to go behind the opening, in front of the opening, how it's fitting.
Okay.
I promise you it won't be hard. We just needed more detail on that change.
Fallon will know what
yes,
you need.
Yes, she will absolutely know how to draw it. Yep.
Cool.
Any members of the public wish to speak on this one? Okay, there being none, sounds like we need a motion to approve with the agreed upon conditions that the side door is made of wood and that the garage opening and door is fully dimensioned. Anybody up for that?
Yep. I will make a motion to approve all items on HPCA-26-00045 with the specific findings and conditions noted in the staff report, with the agreed upon conditions that the side door is wood and the garage door is dimensioned and documented, and all that will be sent to staff.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, if you go, okay, we can vote. Yep. Okay, get with staff and we'll get that one rolling. Next, we have a spud, and I just want to make a quick note that for those of you who are here for the informational presentation, we can still do that after we lose quorum, so we'll continue with that after the spud. So SPUD 1828.
This is at 111 Northwest 14th Street, Heritage Hills East, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application by Mark Sitzow to request a recommendation from HP to the Planning Commission regarding a request to rezone this property in accordance with SPUD 1828. This is changing so a future project will come back to the commission for a certificate of appropriateness to actually construct a building. Right now, they are asking to change the zoning from what is currently C4, which is our most intense commercial zoning district, to a base zone of R4 to allow for multifamily, retaining the historic landmark overlay. They have asked to modify the density allowed per the R4, which is based on a number of dwelling units per square footage. They've set a cap of 25. They've asked to modify the setback and to allow for a height of 4 stories. We provided a staff recommendation to recommend approval with some conditions that some of those things be modified. The neighborhood sent in comments generally in support of the proposed SPUD. And again, all of those things will come back through the commission for further review. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you, Katie. Mark Zitzow, Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. The developer's here as well if there are additional questions. So this is a unique block, I think, NHP. It was mentioned in the staff report that it was brought in at a later date. Our zoning is nothing that I think anyone in this room would agree should be on the present site. You cannot get C4 zoning approved anywhere in the city currently because of the uses that are permitted. We're talking heavy industrial uses, the north side of the block being R4. So we were generally in agreement with the staff report. We cannot agree to the conditions, and we think the particular block and area, it's a bit misleading when you look at the setbacks of what we're requesting versus what they are. 14th Street has 100 feet of right-of-way. That is not a normal city right-of-way in residential areas. And then when we get into height, I think it was submitted and in your packet, what we showed is the building immediately to our west is about 30 feet tall. There is no single-family residential left on this block. There's multifamily to our north. I think there's office use for the church on the corner, and then there's commercial use on Broadway. We are in no way bringing a height to this area that is incompatible or not present. The Aberdeen is at 70 feet on our block. The Buckstaff is just under 33. But when you look at the garage apartments to our south, I think that's just under 50 feet tall. St. Luke's, the dome piece is 40 feet. Their administration building, I think, is 27 feet tall. So there is existing height in and around what we are proposing. I think when you look at downtown, immediately to the south, that block was slated for like 5 stories. So the idea that we would be overly tall or too tall, I don't think is a fair representation. We think our project, this block and the Aberdeen, is actually like a step down as you go north and come into the neighborhood. When it comes to the open space comments in the staff report, I think it's helpful to remember what the R4 base zoning district is. It's a district that is established for suburban garden-style apartment complexes. We do not have a zoning code that has an urban infill multifamily residential. And so when you see things like 40% open space, the staff report notes it, that includes parking lots. So you will not find a suburban complex that has massive green spaces and open spaces. You'll see sea of parking. So given that we believe we're a down zoning, we believe the density is in line with what the comprehensive plan called for when it was adopted. There's existing buildings that exceed or are within a reasonable amount from us. And then our right-of-way being as extensive as it is, when you see 8 feet in the PUD, know that there's an additional 14 feet behind the sidewalk before you even get to our property line. That's the quick version. We're asking for a recommendation. Please know that when the design, before any building permit can be approved, we have to come back and you will see the final design. Last thing on the height, the architect, Klaus, who I think was a member of this committee, is well known in the historic community. I think he even just won an award from Oklahoma City for a brand new duplex he built. It's designed in such a way that it'll look like 35 feet from the street, which I think is what Brent Wall was approved for just down the block. The fourth floor is stepped back in and goes up. So he's attempted to do massing to make it feel like a smaller building and structure than it is. That's not necessarily what you're approving today. We're asking for the height and the density. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Can I fire off a couple of quick ones as I know we're short on time. So does the SPUD anywhere in this proposal, are you allowed for parking on the front of the building versus the rear? I'm just looking at the last little rendering in your packet that just says proposed building, and it looks like it's green space at the front and parking at the rear. Or do I have that flipped? No,
that's correct. Okay. So parking is in the rear. It's all green space. This is all city right of way.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be able to put parking there without having to go through to this line right here. So any parking that, if it was ever proposed, would have to go through Traffic Commission and additional approvals. We couldn't do that because of the SPUD.
Okay, and what is the total proposed height? I know it says 3.5 stories.
It is 44 feet 9 inches. And it's not, the design is not done or finished, but that's the current conceptual plan.
The SPUD is for 50 feet. They're asking for a height limit of 50 feet. The design does not go up to that 50-foot mark. That's just what's in there, 4 stories and 50 feet.
We don't know what parapets are going to look like, and so we're trying to build in a little bit of flexibility there.
Have you reviewed the condition that staff put in that the maximum number of dwelling units be reduced, the maximum allowed height be reduced, and the front setback be increased? Have you, what in your position is you don't want to be subject to any of those conditions, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I will say, reviewing it and reviewing the design to the point that they have it now and what we've seen and what you all have seen, staff is not terribly concerned about any of those items. I wanted to give you all the language to address each of those features. Those were kind of the main things that stood out as varying from what would be standard for what's allowed. I wanted to give you the language to use if you wanted to ask for any of those things to be changed. If you all are confident that the design will come in at a height that is compatible with the district, that the setback is in line with what's surrounding it and appropriately stepping back to the adjacent historic building. Truly, we don't typically get into dwelling units other than the fact that they kind of drive what the property looks like and the massing. So that's there for you all to use or not use at your discretion. We might want to see if there's any, unless there's other questions from the commission, we might want to see if anyone from the public wants to speak.
Any members from the public wish to speak? Come on up.
While they're walking up, I'll note that we received a letter of support, and we received a text message from someone who just wasn't able to get a support letter in from Purity Day Spa, which is our immediate neighbor.
Okay, thank you. All right, welcome. Would you state your name and address, please?
Randy Ice, 119 Northwest 19th, Heritage Hills. Okay. You have our written comments. Basically, we supported what staff had requested. And we have met with the applicant. We were very happy with the applicant. The design, the primary applicant lives in the neighborhood. We are very comfortable with putting this into residential housing. That's what we want on this location. The number of units really doesn't matter to us. It mostly is what it looks like, okay? And we like the idea of that top floor being set back so it's not visible from the sidewalk. These are things that are on the design side, okay? We'd love it to be set back more, but again, these are design features. And this is why we supported what the staff said. We want the commission to have options, okay? And we've had some problems in other historic districts, like I'm sure you are aware of this, where SPUDs have been overly generous and they've been taken advantage of, and the HP Commission has been forced to do things they didn't want to do because they didn't have control. And I think it's because in most cases the SPUD approval process is pretty routine. And
Randy, I don't want to cut you off, but we got 4 minutes or we're not going to be able to vote on this. So
it's not routine in the historic district. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, given the fact that we have a time limit and that my computer screen is about to fail in front of me? It's having a stroke. So we have very limited time in a lot of ways.
And I would say if the commission wanted to, if the commission felt so inclined to recommend approval and did not want to include that condition, you could add a finding that the design review process will remain in place to ensure compatibility of the design.
Is that finding necessary, or is it, I mean,
I feel like that's
procedural, right?
Yeah, maybe you don't need to. Just because there are several findings that are saying it's not consistent with various things.
I'm personally good with everything. The 50 feet doesn't bother me, especially if they're going to set back that top story. They're going to need to use the rest of that roof space above the 3rd story for roof equipment, and they'll want to screen that, which means you're going to need 42 inches of parapet and whatever you're doing on top. So I would rather give them the leeway to use what they need for that height, and then we can judge the massing and see what that looks like and then make recommendations based on that. It's not guaranteeing they get 50, but I think until we know what it is.
This is step one. So let's go ahead and get it going in the next 90 seconds. Anybody?
I'm just impressed because I've never heard a neighborhood say that they don't care how many dwelling units that you can have in there. And if
Heard
you
it
get,
here first, folks.
if you get, if you get Dr.
Well
Randy
done.
to say that, you should just roll with it.
Right?
Yeah, my only issue was kind of with the setback as it was described in here. I didn't have a problem with the height I know the units, the number of units is going to be what you think is marketable.
I'm just happy to see something going there.
Yeah,
So,
but the
here for it.
setback was the one thing that I really didn't understand in all of this when it's talking about that it's going to be further up. But let's move on.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to recommend approval on SPUD 1828 to Planning Commission.
Second, anybody?
With the findings and
Oh, yes, with the
the findings and not the conditions.
Yes, noted in the staff report.
I'll second.
You said no conditions, right?
Right.
Correct. Okay, if y'all will all please vote in PrimeGov, and I need to vote verbally if possible. Yes.
1 minute to spare.
All right, I got to go watch an
Thank you all.
11-year-old play the double bass.
Okay.
What a
I'm
night.
Ollie.
Okay, congratulations. And we do not, as discussed, need quorum to hear the presentation up next. So if you guys want to, I can't see my computer screen anymore, but I think that's what's next. So
Yes.
you may have to guide me through the rest.
Informational presentation on proposed renovations to Winans Park in Heritage Hills East.
Yes, good afternoon. Excited to be here. Darren Scott with Kimley Horn. Office address 4727 Gaillardia Parkway. So this park is part of the 105 neighborhood and community parks. It's being improved through the MAPS process. So we're in the first phase. It's the first 20 of those and going through the design process. So we wanted to give you an update on what Winans, the concept of is looking like, and just kind of let you guys see it before it comes here for approval. We've also been working closely with Heritage Hills East, Brent Wall, Stuart Hudson on some of their input too on this. So it's been a collaborative process between them, parks, and MAPS. So with that, I'll let Melissa Seward go through what we've been doing and some of the highlights of the improvements.
Hi, I'm Melissa Seward, and so just a little bit of history of the park. It's pretty central to Broadway, right on the edge of Heritage Hills, and we have had a wading pool there, a bathhouse, some pretty historic signage, and tennis courts with some lighting. And for our existing conditions, we have mostly trees out there right now. There's not a lot going on other than the signage, but we're wanting to improve that by adding a crosswalk from the neighborhood and a loop around the park with some picnic tables and a shade structure, as well as a multi-use court, which also includes the tennis as well. And then we were providing some trees along with a raised median and some bollards to prevent people from driving into the park, along with parking on street so that people can access the park that aren't within the neighborhood. So for the perimeter fencing, we have a decorative fence. Can you go back a slide? Oh, thank you. I think they just did. Yeah. For the crosswalk, we're doing a push button crosswalk signage. We are working with the Heritage Hills East neighborhood group to get the sign refurbished and restored. And then we're gonna do a normal concrete color with tactile dome cast iron EDA. And then for the fencing, we coordinated with the neighborhood group, and the fencing we are going with is this metal fencing for security fencing to prevent kids from running into the street, as well as tying in that signage and the characteristics of it.
And they are also adding globe lightings to the top. And then we will have historic picnic tables and the shade structure as you see here to kind of resemble the similarities of the furnishings. And then we will do black chain link fencing around the tennis courts and multi-use court, and then the world's bench as our historic bench for the park. And that is all.
Okay, great. Thank you. This one is super exciting. I'm really excited about it. I do have a concern that I just wanted to voice, and it's about the crosswalk situation. You know, I noticed you don't have very much parking because you are anticipating most people who use it walk there. And I have kids who walk to Classen, for instance. So they walk from my house at 15th and Chartel over to Classen. It's the most wonderful thing to live in the middle of a city and let your kids walk to school, but it's the most nerve-wracking 12 minutes of my day every day. We've really, as a society, like for kids, walked back the safety of them getting across major streets. And it feels like there is a really killer opportunity here, since y'all are acknowledging that this is going to be predominantly used by people from the neighborhood, to not mess that up from the get-go. So is there anything we can do to make that a little beefier?
So part of the original, in the master plan that we did for maps, we had the rapid flashing beacon, which is,
right,
you push a button, it strobes,
yes,
pretty brightly.
Love it. Can it scream too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the feedback we had was, it's close to some houses. Is that going to be an issue with the houses strobing light? The only time it comes on is when somebody pushes it. It doesn't strobe all the time.
I think, considering the things we've allowed on our perimeter streets, such as a 7-Eleven, we can do with a crosswalk flashing that's probably going to flash twice a night at most. Right. I mean, I would personally go door knock for you and ask people to sign off on that.
Yeah, and it's as far as pricing, it's very similar to, it's either a blinking light or the rapid, basically the strobe. So we've used that a lot recently, the strobe.
I think that keeps it so usable for the neighborhood, and not that it is simply for their use, but it's really awesome to live right there and see kids out having this safe independence and being able to navigate city streets by themselves. And the safer we can make that, and not just for kids, but of course that's going to be the biggest use.
Right. Yeah. Anything else?
Come on, back me up on my crosswalk stuff. Put it on the
I
record.
agree. I almost said, like, you know, would there be a way to, like, squeeze down the lanes a little bit at that crosswalk? Because narrower lanes always forces people to slow down. And there are so many people that come off 235 at 23rd, and if they get the green light, they're going 50 through there, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, it's a weird place, you know, for a stoplight, because you don't have any east-west traffic other than pedestrians. But if there were any other, you know, good urbanism practices we could implement there to force people to slow down a little bit.
I think one challenge is the neighborhoods have both, you know, been really aggressive in their traffic planning proposals to get people to use Classen and Broadway. So they've tried to speed those up in order to, you know, slow the neighborhood down. So I'm not anticipating that you want to slow down Broadway or Classen, but if you want to put one of those at Classen and 18th Street too, that'd be great. But, you know, just to get it as visible as possible feels extremely important.
Yeah, and part of this too, it's a park improvement project through MAPS. You know, we do have a few crosswalks, but expanding that beyond crosswalks is kind of out of the scope of at least the MAPS program. But absolutely express other ideas to the city as far as how to improve Broadway.
Is there any holdup to getting that, you know, the thing you just initially mentioned?
No, that was in the plan. So the rapid flashing beacon setup was in the master plan, which can be in this plan. So, yeah.
The only thing
I was just going to comment, these are again just comments of citizens here. We have no quorum, obviously, so these are not necessarily recommendations from the commission itself.
Well, this, once they do come back, is this something that we recommend for approval to Planning Commission?
This is a certificate of appropriateness for an exterior change to Winans Park.
Do we review all items, or is it just to signage and fencing?
You review all items.
Okay, so even the crosswalk? I kind of assumed we didn't get to
We don't typically review and take action on things between the curbs, so like striping and crosswalks
Right.
and that sort of thing. We do technically have to approve the installation of any signage, which would include the crosswalk sign, so that'll come back to you guys. Yeah, and then all of the landscape features and benches and fencing and signage and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
The one thing I go back on the crosswalk too, and spending a lot of time in Scottsdale and where our place is there, then there's a park across the street. They have the actual stoplight activated crosswalks. And it's not a big thing, but you know, you hit it, then eventually it turns red, then it turns a flashing yellow and then goes through. And it's in no way looks like a normal stoplight, but it allows for that to go through. And I know those are very common all throughout Scottsdale, Phoenix area, which personally I think Phoenix is the most well-planned city in the United States and its suburbs, and would like to see more of those things here. I'm not saying I didn't know if that's even an alternative there with the speed that cars go through there. And I will say I love the parking triangle or the raised triangle that's going to prevent the constant barreling over of the street lights there. So, okay, that's my only comment.
Okay.
I will say, when I was looking for historic photos of Winans Park when this came up, most of the photos that I could find were of cars that had crashed into Winans Park. So definitely needs some protection.
Yeah, I think this is going to be really great, so appreciate your efforts.
All right, thank you.
Okay, communications and reports.
We have administrative approvals. Always feel free to reach out to us with questions about those. No withdrawals, no administrative closings. We do have an item going to Board of Adjustment tomorrow. It is an appeal of the denial for 827 Northwest 17th. That was referenced earlier, the 2-story garage plus a 1-story garage in Mesta Park. And staff will be there to respond to questions from the board. And can you see anything anymore, Sarah, to get to your?
I can open it, but it turns into like a strobe light.
I can just say that the next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, June 3rd. Items were to be received by May 5th, and any new documentation should be submitted to staff by Tuesday, May 12th. And then our next scheduled workshop is Wednesday, September 9th, although we'll try to get something sooner scheduled for our guidelines subcommittee.
Okay, items from commissioners? Okay, I have one and I make it every month. Today was a really great example of why we desperately need more appointees, and it is hugely unfair to the people who sit in this room and don't get to be heard and to continue to carry their mortgages and their project expenses for another month while they wait on us. So just a plea for more commissioners and more attendance for those who are on the commission. Any citizens who wish to be heard on anything? Nope, okay, we're adjourned.